up, guys? Thanks for stopping by the channel and clicking on the video. My name's Leah. Let's recap and review Real Housewives of New Jersey. This is season 4. I was about to say 14. Season 12, episode I don't know, but it's part 1 of the reunion. Y'all getting this good voiceover action is because your girl don't look presentable, nor does she want to be presentable at this moment. I just want to chill today, but I don't want to get behind on videos. So let's get into this review. Honestly, you guys, everyone got on my nerves. Like everyone, even Jennifer, and y'all know I love me some Jennifer, but everybody got on my nerves. I feel like this cast is moving into the direction, for me, the way I felt about Vanderpump Rules. I used to really enjoy watching Vanderpump Rules until I just stopped watching it because everybody got on my nerves. Everybody was insufferable. Everybody was whiny, and nobody would take accountability for their actions. And I feel like that is where we're heading with all of these women. And I don't like it because New Jersey is one of my favorite housewife franchises. But we open up the episode where Andy's doing pleasantries, asking everybody questions. We get an update on Jackie and her bout with her eating disorder. We'll probably get more into it because I think this is like a 3-part reunion. I hope it's 2, but I feel like it's a 3. But yeah, one thing I will say I didn't like about this segment is the way Andy always is questioning Jennifer about her plastic surgery. We get it. Andy doesn't really care for Jennifer. Low-key, he don't even like her. And it's like every time I've seen a clip of him doing Watch What Happens Live this season, he's always questioning people about Jennifer's appearance or questioning her about her appearance. And it's like, okay, bro, like, we get it. You don't like her. But the constant asking of her plastic surgery is misogynistic. And we not about to act like Andrew ain't had no work done. We not about to act like Andy ain't did some things to his face. Now, I did want to focus on Dolores, and they talked about her new man. So I know in one of my videos, I showed a picture of her new man, and the dude looked like a younger version of Frank. But I'm only bringing this up because it seems like we're going to focus in on it, excuse me, on going forward in the reunion, because Frank doesn't seem to get along with the guy. But I think that's really because Dolores seems to really like this person because they're already saying I love you, and that to me is weird at her age. Like, I just don't think you should be saying I love you to somebody that quick. Jennifer worked my nerves, y'all, and y'all know I love Jennifer. She's one of my girls, but Jennifer worked my nerves. She was so far up Theresa's ass this whole entire part 1, and it's like, why are you defending somebody who was so ready to throw you away when her brothers asked her to? And as much as everyone likes to say that Jennifer is Theresa's lapdog, and she proved it, she was following behind Theresa. Jackie, to me, is the same. The fact that we found out information that Jackie and Theresa were hanging out outside the show, and then once the show started filming and the whole digging situation, I'm like, girl, you should have got over that before y'all started hanging out with each other. But if Margaret doesn't like somebody, Jackie doesn't like somebody. So then we get into Dolores and Jennifer arguing. I feel like Jennifer had too much energy for Dolores. She had too much energy for Dolores. I feel like she was on 20, and honestly, 18% of that 20 should have been given to Theresa, and the other 2% should have been given to Dolores. Or she could have gave them 10 and 10. But to be going at Dolores, I was like, Jennifer, calm down. Calm down. We then start talking about Jackie and Dolores's beef, about how, Dolores didn't like that Jackie was questioning her friendship to Jennifer. And she was just kind of like, girl, that was not your place. Jackie felt like it was her place because Jackie let us in on the fact that Dolores was communicating with both Margaret and Jennifer, and basically saying she agreed with both of them. They then show a flashback clip of when Dolores got in Jackie's face, and they start asking about Street Fighter. Who do you think was the best Street Fighter, or who wouldn't you want to go down a dark alley with? And I find it very funny that we're having a conversation about putting hands on each other, but Andrew was like, this isn't Love and Hip Hop when it came to Real Housewives of Potomac and Real Housewives of Atlanta. But you got the Italian women talking about they like to put hands on each other. And to me, I think they're the most violent cast because we've had so many examples of the women putting hands on people. We got Theresa pushing people down. We got Margaret throwing water on people, pushing people in the pool. We have Theresa throwing, like, shoving glasses on people. So they are. So then they also show the flashback of Jennifer crying, and then they get into the part about the said relationship between Dolores and Jennifer. And basically what we find out is that Dolores was trying to be the strong friend and trying to get Jennifer to man up, because she's like, girl, Dolores gives energy. You don't cry in front of your enemies. And she also, I guess they had a conversation where Jennifer told Dolores, anytime you see me crying, like, tell me to stop. But I guess the way in which Dolores was doing it, it was harsh. And Dolores could have came in sweeter. And we've seen her be sweet because she has kids that she loves. They then bring up about Frank and the whole digging. And my thing is, Frank even copped to saying he knew the girl. If you look at the after shows with the husband, Frank basically told on himself and said he knew the girl. So it's like, y'all can't be that mad at Jennifer. Y'all can't be that mad at Jennifer. And I get it. Jennifer was trying to help Theresa. We end up finding out that Jennifer went and asked the lady, and the lady, they didn't find anything. She was like, they didn't find anything. And Jennifer was like, even if we did, we wouldn't have brought it to the show. Jackie didn't believe it. I mean, I don't know. I kind of believe that Jennifer wouldn't do that, because Jennifer only brings up stuff that is on the show. But I understand Jackie's skepticism. They didn't bring up Margaret, and I don't know. Margaret worked my nerves because Margaret won't take accountability that what she did was wrong. You aired her out. Now, do I understand why Margaret aired her out? Heck yeah, she don't like Jennifer. And Margaret felt some type of way about Jennifer always constantly digging at her about her infidelity with her husband. But don't sit here and be like, I ain't ruined a happy marriage. You did, in a sense, bring up something that was hurtful. And I also agree with Jennifer when Jennifer was like, I'm allowed to process and feel my feelings, which she is. And I feel like everybody wants Jennifer to not feel how she feels. It's like, I guess they expected Jennifer to just suck it up and like come back even harder at Margaret, but she didn't. So now you have to deal with her feeling this type of way. And Margaret's whole thing was like, I didn't break up a happy family. And I think honestly for Margaret is, she already done it once. She messed up her marriage with her ex-husband. She cheated on him. She doesn't have a relationship with her, I guess, her stepchildren, which she wants that from them, but they don't want it from her because they feel like she really hurt their father. And so I don't think she wants that on her conscience, which is understandable. But she didn't break up a marriage because they're still together. She just aired out their tea. You then got Jackie, and I think it was Jackie and Theresa going at it, and then Jackie and, oh, that's because Jennifer called Jackie insecure, and then Jackie was like, I'm the strongest person you'll ever meet, or something like that. And I was like, quiet. It was stupid to me. And then they brought up her crying, and I'm like, if y'all was gonna talk shit about Jennifer crying, then Jackie had to be ready for them to talk shit about her crying. And one thing that bothers me about Jackie and why I can't do it with her sometimes is we end up finding out that Jackie and Theresa were hanging out outside of the show. Actually, they showed a clip of them playing tennis, and then we find out they played golf together. And this is when I look at Jackie with the side eye, because it's like this whole season you were talking about how Theresa kind of like suffocates the room. You were saying that she was aiding in your uncomfortability with your eating disorder because of the said rumor last year and how you were stressed out about that. And now y'all are hanging out before the show and outside of the show. So I'm like, do you really not like this lady? Or is it when y'all start filming, you don't like her because you know you want to stick on the island with Margaret? And my thing is like, I would totally be okay with Jackie if she wasn't friends with Margaret, the person y'all say knows everybody's tea. They've said that several times throughout this whole entire season that Margaret knows has dirt on everybody. So then it's okay that Theresa and Jennifer went digging. Now, do I think it's right? No, I really don't. Like, they shouldn't have done that. But if you can be friends with someone that knows everybody's tea, that means either Margaret went digging or some people offered it up to her, or it's both. So it's weird to me. It's weird. It's weird. And like, we like Jackie because she's smart. She's very articulate. But Jackie is just as much of a follower as the other ladies, as Jennifer is. So then Andy asks Theresa about her love bubble. And when I tell y'all I'm so sick of hearing the reference love bubble, like, I'm tired of it. Like, I don't want to hear it no more. No more. Like, not from anybody anymore. But Andy asks Theresa about her relationship with Louie. How is it different from Joe? How did the girls feel about him? And things of that nature. And they make a reference like you're with Oprah versus a caveman because of how, I guess, so caring Louie is. And then they bring up the whole reference about a shelter dog when it came to Theresa and Dolores. And Dolores tried to pretty it up, but it still sounded bad. But I thought it was interesting when Theresa said she just married Joe. Like, she loved him, but she really just married him because she was tired of how strict her parents were. And what's crazy is, like, I remember having a coworker who, she got married just because she wanted to get out her parents' house. She got tired of being around them. She got tired of being controlled in that way, and ended up marrying the first guy that, asked her. And she was miserable. And it's like you traded one controlling person for another. And I wish parents wouldn't do that. Like, you have to give children freedom, or they rebel in some of the worst ways. So Andy goes on to ask about the different allegations that we've heard about Louie, and also about Theresa getting a prenup. And one thing I find interesting, and I have to give Andy a point, is Andy made mention that, we asked about these allegations last season's reunion. So you can't be all mad at Margaret. And on the screen, it flashed, Kim D alleges Theresa Giudice's new man, Louis Rules, has a dark past. My thing is, anything Kim D says, Teresa's gonna think it's trash because they hate each other. Then another allegation popped up about Louis, where it says Teresa's new boyfriend, Louis, is obsessed with sex and has an insatiable libido, his exes claim in an unearthed court documents. So then, as it pertains to the prenup, everybody wants Theresa to get a prenup. I want the lady to get a prenup. Like, she'd be crazy not to, but they showed a tweet from Bethany Frankel where she says, I may jump through the phone if Theresa doesn't sign a prenup, and she added Andy. And the truth of the matter is, like, I think everybody wants Theresa to get a prenup. Like, fans of her want her to get a prenup. People who aren't fans of her want her to get a prenup. The general populace wants the lady to get a prenup because we know what happens in these types of situations. And she's rushing in to marry Louie. And she also said that she felt like it was shameful to get a prenup because even when she was going to marry Joe, I guess before they were going to get married, or a few days before they were going to get married, he kind of made her sign a prenup or told her to sign a prenup. And she was like, she didn't want to marry him because that's shameful. And I think this just proves that Theresa is living in this fairy tale land where she feels like she's met her Prince Charming and she doesn't want to ruin it. And it's like I get what she's saying, but then I don't. I understand wanting this to be like a fairy tale because you've had such a dark past when it comes to love. But it's also like, ma'am, you're 49 years old. You know how harsh and how ugly divorces can get. You had one with your previous husband. So why not protect yourself? And the talk around prenups need to be different, because you can create a prenup with love. You can create it where both parties are protected, and you can rehash it every few years if you put a clause in that. I think Theresa just doesn't want to go the extra mile, and I feel like it's stupid. It's stupid. So if he screws you over, you get what you get. And her making the comment like, oh, well, Louie has way more money than me. And that doesn't mean he ain't gonna want your money if y'all break up. What? We get to the family feuding section with Theresa versus Melissa. And one thing I will say is Melissa annoyed the piss out of me, because I'm like, you don't like her. So why are you fake upset or fake mad that you're not going to be a bridesmaid? So then Melissa is like, it's the hypocrisy for me. You always talk about family this, family that. And I'm like, Melissa, you don't like the lady. You don't like her. So why do you want to be in her wedding? it was annoying. And my thing is, like, I actually was like happy that Theresa said, you know, we're not that close, and y'all aren't. One thing I will say, Melissa frustrated me when she brought up like all the things she's done for the family, i.e. be there for like their ailing parents. And I'm like, you married Joe. That's the least you can do. They're part of your family now too, so they're dying. So make sure their transition is smooth. Like, that annoyed me. I was like, you don't get brownie points for being a good person. You just don't. I thought it was asinine that Theresa was like, Melissa should have been a good sister-in-law and waited till I had my baby. Then we could have had a wedding, because she was pregnant being a bridesmaid. And I was like, Theresa, that's stupid. That's stupid. Like, the whole conversation is stupid. It's mainly stupid to me because y'all don't like each other. Y'all don't have a good relationship. Then Melissa brings up the whole thing about the engagement party. They also talk about Dolores not being invited. The truth of the matter is, Dolores wasn't invited because Dina was there. Dina and Dolores don't like each other because Dolores is still cool with Caroline and them. And Dina, and you know, we all know about them, like someone putting a hit out on that lady basically and breaking into her home. So Theresa sees Dina as her true real friend. So if Dina didn't want Dolores there, Dolores wasn't going to be there. But Melissa's upset because they had 2 engagement tables and she sat at a different table. And I'm just like, girl, whatever. But then Margaret jumps in and Theresa cussed Margaret out. And I'm like, girl, this is the energy you should have brought to the show, to that scene when y'all were when you knocked over them tables or knocking over them cups. Like, if you would have cussed her out like this, I'd have been with you. I really would have been with you. Joe gets up on stage and then they keep rehashing family drama. They talk about how they're not allowed to say anything negative about Louie. Theresa's like, Louie tries to talk to Joe, but then Joe is like, all he want to talk about is the show, and I don't be wanting to talk about that. Theresa's like, no, he be wanting to hang out with you, but you don't want to hang out with him. Melissa's like, that's not true. So they go back and forth about that. Then they also start arguing about the whole wedding thing, how Joe is like, it's disrespectful that we're not in the wedding. And Joe was like, he might not be in the wedding if his wife's not in the wedding. And Theresa was like, I respect that. I'm cool with it. My thing is, like, I don't think they're going to make Theresa feel bad for not putting them in the wedding because she knows they're not close. They're just in-laws. And even though her and Joe are like blood related, they don't have a great relationship. So why would she want to share that day with them? Melissa was just annoying me because it's like, Melissa, I get it. It's hypocrisy, but you act the same way as Theresa. In my opinion, they're 2 sides of the same coin. They constantly are asking for loyalty from one another, and they never give it to each other. We only got it between these 2 one time. The way I saw it, maybe like, no, I'll give Melissa and them 2 times and Theresa 1 time. It was the time when they were down at the shore and Melissa was like, please don't bring up Louie. And the other time was when Theresa pushed them cups on Margaret. And they followed after Theresa. And Theresa did it one time where she said she would stop talking to Jennifer if that's what her family wanted from her about the whole cricket statement. And I just feel like that's all y'all gonna get from each other. I don't know what y'all want from each other. And I'm sick of them constantly like rehashing it because we're not gonna get to a resolution. The fact that they were like bringing back old episodes to prove how they have turmoil was crazy. They then got to Theresa and Theresa's like, I've done things, I've supported you guys, roll the footage. And the set went black. The set went completely black. Like the lights got really, really dim and they just cut off. A lot of people online were like, not production cutting off the camera, cutting off the lights because they didn't have any footage for Theresa. But it was a weird way that the lights dimmed because the lights went off because they went dim and then they cut. It was so weird. The lights come back on and Melissa starts talking about how she had a problem with Theresa not coming to stay with them after the whole hand fumbling with Jennifer. And my thing is that she was staying with Theresa, like Theresa was staying with Jennifer. And I'll give Theresa a point. Theresa did tell Jennifer the next day, you need to make it right with my family. And I was also kind of shocked that they didn't dive more into that. They did not talk about that much, which I was like really surprised. But like I said, I think both ladies were wrong. Melissa didn't need to walk past Jennifer, and Jennifer didn't need to grab Melissa. It is what it is. Ain't nobody really throw hands. So we can move on. So then they bring up Gia. They bring up their daughters being mad at Joe, and Joe feeling like, why am I the bad guy when their father does the same thing? And truth be told, he does. He talks negatively about them, and they talk negatively about him. But the truth of the matter is, that's their dad, and they have a good relationship with him, and you're their uncle. You both have to deal with their feelings because they're able to be vocal about them. They then show all these clips of Theresa and Joe fighting. That one Aspen fight that I think they was in Aspen, but they was somewhere in the mountains fighting in 2013. They also show when Melissa's stupid self threw that cheese plate down at the shore last season, which was not needed, but was so dramatic. And then they also show the clip of Joe saying, he put my mother in the effing grave. You think I'm gonna like him? Going bloodshot red. And it was just like, my Lord. They even went as far as to go back to 2011 where Joe and Theresa were beefing about their significant others. And the thing about it to me is, like I said in one of my videos, y'all's relationship was never that tight if y'all were able to allow your significant others, Melissa or Joe Giudice, to ruin y'all family, y'all sibling bond that quickly. So then they show like an excerpt of something that Joe Giudice had said, and it says, he should be embarrassed after all I've done for him, his family, his parents, everything else. Without me, he still would be climbing trees and cutting branches, Theresa's ex stated. He should just grow up. And I mean, he says those things. And I do feel like Joe has a right to respond, but also with responding, you have to be ready for your nieces to think you're the worst person if you can't do it with tact. But we find out that Theresa and the girls do tell Joe Giudice to like lay off of Joe, but they don't have any control over him. And Joe brings up about their kids finding out about what the things that they say, and she was like, I understand. Segment annoyed me, and I don't know how Margaret got inserted into it, but Margaret and Theresa start going back and forth with each other. And one thing I will say is Theresa annoys me with how much energy she has for Margaret, which I really feel like is misplaced, and it's the energy she wants to give those blogs who have constantly brung up negative stories about Louie. But also with Margaret said something about like, I'm a good friend to Melissa and I'm also a good friend to you, and Teresa's like, no you're not. And I'm like, Margaret, you're not a good friend, because the lady asked you several times to drop bringing up stuff every time we meet out. Let it go. We're happy. I don't want you ruining our happiness. And Margaret constantly kept bringing it up, and it's like, you can't tell people to like set boundaries and then someone sets a boundary with you and you just be like, nope, and keep it pushing. I could be with Margaret if she would just stand in her messiness and be like, girl, I want to know what's tea. But she won't. So then a situation breaks out between Joe and Jennifer. And I wasn't mad at Jennifer. If Joe was going to keep going back and forth with her, then Joe has to be ready for Jennifer's mouth. So Joe does this like flippant hand gesture, like he's trying to like, I guess he slapped the air. So Jennifer does it back and calls him a little bitch girl. And she defended, I think she defended herself perfectly when she said, if you're going to argue with me, then you have to be able to like take what I say. He just did a hand gesture, slapping the air, so I can do it back and call him a bitch and keep it pushing. So like it is what it is. So then they bring up about, Melissa says something to the effect like, well, you were saying how you wanted your husband to defend you the way my husband did. And Jennifer was like, yeah, but he takes it overboard. My husband doesn't engage and your husband engages too much. I want a happy medium. Like, that's what I think we need. And you're always in our mess. And that's my thing. He started it with Jennifer, so he has to be ready for Jennifer to come back. So then he starts bringing up about what's a real man, about a man getting dirty and being a construction worker and loving his wife and putting her on a pedestal. I was like, be quiet. Be quiet, Joe. So then Joe gets upset because Theresa calls him a little bitch girl too, because Theresa's like, well, you do get into our drama a lot. It's called Real Housewives, not Real House Husbands. And he's like, stop demeaning me. Stop. And when he started doing that, it was very much like little brother energy. It was such little brother energy. It was such little brother energy. So then Theresa's like, okay, Joe, you're right. You're so dramatic. You are so dramatic. Like, you're acting like a little bitch boy right now. So then he gets mad, and Joe just is like, I'm done. I quit. And so he just got him and walked off. So then Melissa was like, why you be doing that to your brother? I'm like, your brother can't be jumping into women's business or women's like arguments and not think somebody's gonna cuss him out. Like, you can't do that. And my thing with Joe is he could cuss his sister out. Like, I don't understand why we like siblings don't cuss. Like, I cuss my sister out. Why can't they have that same energy? So I was just like, oh my God. Like I said, y'all, I give this reunion a C. We'll see where it goes. Remember to be bravely authentic. Drop down in the comments below. Let me know what was your favorite part. Did you enjoy the reunion? Are you sick of hearing about Joe versus Theresa? And I'm out, y'all. Deuces.